So, you've probably heard the term beginner's mind, right? It pops up everywhere, from meditation apps to corporate wellness seminars, and it's always about this great attitude of being open and curious. But what if that's only like half the story? Okay, let's really get into this, because there's a much older, way more radical idea about the power that's hiding in your very first step.
This is the classic quote. You've probably seen it. It's from Shunryu Suzuki Roshi's famous book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And it just perfectly nails that idea that being an expert can kind of box you in, while a beginner's view is wide open, full of potential. It's a great psychological insight, a way to live with more humility. For most of us, that's where the conversation ends. But what if, centuries before this idea ever hit the West, beginner's mind wasn't just about having a good attitude? What if it described an actual stage of practice? A stage where the final goal was already somehow completely present? I mean, a version of this that is just way more profound.
Okay, so check this out. This really lays it bare. On one side, you've got the familiar Zen view, beginner's mind is a helpful attitude, something you work on. But on the other side, there's this much older take from the Tiantai and Nichiren traditions. And for them, it's a straight-up doctrinal claim. The beginner stage isn't a problem to solve, it's the very place where the whole path exists, right from the get-go.
To really get our heads around this, we have to go back, way back, to 6th century China and meet a master named Zi. He's the founder of this hugely influential school of Buddhism called Tiantai, and his ideas about what it means to be a beginner, well, they were nothing short of revolutionary. So Zi's big idea was this thing called the perfect and sudden teaching. And it basically says, forget about climbing some long, slow ladder to enlightenment. He taught that with the highest teaching, ultimate reality isn't some far-off destination you might reach after decades of work. No, it's fully here, fully accessible from the very first moment you start. The end is in the beginning. And this quote from Zi's top disciple, Guandian, just hits you over the head with the philosophy behind it all. Samsara is nirvana. That means our ordinary, messy, chaotic cycle of life is enlightenment. There is no suffering to be severed. Think about that. It means the beginner, standing right there in the middle of all their confusion and struggles, isn't actually in a different place from a Buddha. The only difference is just recognizing it. So let's keep going, because this builds to a principle that completely flips our normal ideas about learning and expertise right on their head. Here it is, a core idea from the Tiantai school. The truer the teaching, the lower the stage of the person it's meant for. Just let that sink in for a second. It's the complete opposite of what we usually think, right? We assume the deepest truths are for the advanced experts, the ones at the top. So what this really means is that, according to GE, maybe some incomplete teachings can only help people who are already pretty far along the path. But the highest, the truest, most complete teaching, well, that has the power to work for anybody. And it's especially powerful for those who are just starting out. A beginner isn't at a disadvantage. They're in the perfect spot for the ultimate teaching to really do its thing.
Zia used this really vivid analogy to warn about the danger here. He said a beginner who tries to pile on all the advanced stuff, complex meditations, super strict rules, deep philosophical study, before their foundation is solid, they're like a small ship that someone has loaded with way too much treasure. It's too much, too soon. The ship is just going to sink, and all that amazing treasure gets lost. Okay, now let's jump forward about 700 years. We're in 13th century Japan with a master named Nichiren. He took these Tiantai ideas and basically distilled them down into an incredibly focused practice, one that was designed specifically for the beginner living in our kind of modern, confusing age.
So Nichiren's big argument was this. In the time we live in, our own smarts, our intellectual wisdom, it's just not powerful enough to get a direct grip on the ultimate truth. So, what do? He said the Buddha gave us a substitute. We're taught to swap out our limited wisdom for simple, direct faith. Faith becomes the foundation. It's the one thing that matters most. But how can faith possibly work if you don't really understand everything? Nichiren had this brilliant analogy. A baby doesn't need to understand nutrition to get strong from milk, right? It just drinks, and its body is naturally nourished. He taught that the practice of chanting Namu-myoho-renge-kyo works in the exact same way. It feeds you spiritually, whether you intellectually get all the complex philosophy behind it or not. Okay, so this is the obvious question, isn't it? If all you need is faith and this one simple chant, does that mean all that other traditional Buddhist stuff, studying, following rules, meditating, is it all just useless? Are we just supposed to throw it out? And the answer is a definite no. But this is a really key point. The teaching isn't about banning these practices, it's about subordinating them. It's all about the right sequence. First, you build this unshakable foundation of faith with the main practice. And only after that foundation is totally solid do you start to bring in these other complementary practices.
And this whole idea of sequencing brings us to this really beautiful way of mapping out the entire journey of practice. It's a concept called the 3 landings. Think of it like a complete map of the trip. Let's walk through it. The first landing, that's the beginner, practicing with simple faith, and that's it. The second landing is for the practitioner who's matured, and now they start to bring in deep study, meditation, and the precepts. But look at the end. The third landing is called the Great Return. After exploring all that complexity, the practitioner comes right back to the simple chant, but now with this incredibly deep understanding that everything was already in it from the very start. You see, the whole point is that this isn't some ladder you climb, leaving the bottom rungs behind forever. It's more like a circle. The simple practice you do at the first landing isn't some watered-down version of the path. It is the entire path, just in seed form. The end is already packed inside the beginning. And Nichiren leaves us with this incredible image to describe the beginner. He said they are like an infant emperor or a great dragon who has just been born. I mean, think about it. The infant already has the full authority of an emperor. The newborn dragon already has the power to make it rain. That potential isn't something they have to go out and get later. It's already there from the very first moment.
So this just changes everything, doesn't it? Beginner's mind isn't just about trying to be more open to new things. It's about recognizing the incredible inherent power that's already contained in that very first moment of wanting to try, in that initial step of faith. Which kind of leaves all of us with a question to think about. What power is waiting right now in your first step?